Tell you what, Iowa State, for the third straight year, they were a big-time pest to the Oklahoma Sooners. I mean, big-time pest. I mean, last year, of course, the win in Norman 2 years ago, they fought Oklahoma tough, and thank goodness that day Dimitri Flowers came through. Well today, Iowa State gave OU all they wanted, and it came down to the fourth quarter. But thank goodness for Kyler Murray. He was terrific. The Sooners, hold on, 37-27, moved to 3-0. And for the time being, that's all I give a damn about. Okay, yeah, they didn't cover the spread, and yes, Oklahoma made mistakes in this game, stuff that they definitely have to work on, especially on defense. Hear that, Mike Stoops? But it's a W. They moved to 3-0, 1-0 in Big 12 play. Of course, getting ready for Army next Saturday, which will be a pay-per-view game, 6 p.m. kickoff from Norman. But Kyler Murray, the big difference in this game, he was extremely accurate throwing the ball. His decision-making was pinpoint. And not only, by the way, being a factor running the ball, once again, he was OU's leading rusher. He amounted well over 70 yards in rushing, and also, too, knowing not only when to slide to avoid contact, but also how to slide as well. You can tell that baseball background served him well today. So Kyler Murray, and look, I'm not prepared to talk about Heisman Trophy right now. It's only the month of September. Hardly anybody wins the Heisman in September. So let's just put the Heisman, in the background for right now. There's many worthy candidates out there, but I will tell you what, Kyler Murray is not only doing as expected, he's doing better than expected. Running and, of course, throwing the football. Big-time team leader, and when Iowa State would really challenge Oklahoma, which they did several times in this game, Kyler Murray came through. The offensive line did a good job primarily in pass protection, and Kyler Murray, wow, over 300 yards throwing the ball, had 3 touchdown passes. So fantastic, terrific. Whatever positive adjectives you want to use, Kyler Murray fits the blank perfectly in that regard. The running game, we really didn't see Oklahoma showcase that much in the first half. And even when they did, not much success at all. You can obviously tell that the Rodney Anderson injury is a big-time omission for this team. But the second half, especially when Iowa State was making it interesting, cutting the lead down to 7 at 24-17, you saw the Sooners not throw the ball so much on that ensuing drive, but run the ball, and they ran it more successful than they did in half number 1. And, of course, the drive was capped off by the 22-yard touchdown run by Trey Sermon, who also ended up with over 70 yards a day. But Rodney Anderson not being there yet, you can tell there is a difference in how the Sooners attack running the ball. And we saw Cameron Sutton, 1 carry, by the way, for T.J. Pledger, but it was mainly Sermon. And, by the way, speaking of running backs, you hope that Cameron Sutton is fine. Now, initially, in the third quarter, when he got hurt, man, you're like, ugh, not another injury for this Sooner backfield that's already seen Rodney Anderson gone for the year. But we were encouraged a little bit when in the fourth quarter, Sutton did return to the field and played a couple of plays and then came right back out. But Cameron Sutton, let's just hope that, he's going to be fine for the rest of the year. But the fact that he came back into the game a quarter after being hurt, thumbs up right there. Now, of course, you got to give it up to Hollywood. There's a reason why they call him Hollywood, and he definitely stands on center stage when he's on the field. And, man, that first half, was that electrifying or what? 7 catches, well over 170 yards in the first half. The big play where Murray just hits him stride for stride on the long touchdown pass in that first quarter to give Oklahoma their first touchdown of the day. Marquise Brown makes a huge difference. Now, in the second half, of course, I think he only caught a couple of passes, but remember, Oklahoma's strategy had changed at that point. But Marquise Brown, another solid game. C.D. Lamb adding a touchdown to the mix as well. And then we saw Miles Tease with that critical touchdown catch right before halftime. I thought at first Oklahoma had screwed themselves with time management, but it all worked out great. Tease had a touchdown catch to close up the half, and then had another catch later in the second half. So Miles Tease getting some action and getting some results. And also, got to give it up also to Carson Meyer, the fullback, who had a 32-yard reception in the second half. Very pivotal there. The defense for Oklahoma was pathetic because they can't tackle. Something that you're taught to do from Pop Warner football, from middle school, through high school, And yet the Sooners today, especially with the secondary, were trying to make knockout punches to try to make ESPN's top 10 with the knockout blows instead of just wrapping the receiver, especially Hakeem Butler. The Sooners are lucky that Butler only had 5 catches and that Iowa State didn't throw the ball to him near enough. It's ridiculous to be seeing players not be able to make something as basic as a tackle. You might be saying, well, tackling's not easy. Wrap them up below the waist, see what happens. Don't try to hit them upper body. You're going to be like a slinky. Or, basically, don't just try to knock them out. Simple, fundamental as that. Wrap up. All you have to do, and it didn't just happen on the first Butler touchdown reception in the second quarter, but it happened again in the third quarter, and I don't understand it, and that's on Mike Stoops. I'm sorry, that's on him. You got to make sure that you got guys out there that know how to tackle. Last time I checked, tackling was a big part of football. Now, in terms of the Oklahoma defensive front, they did a good job of plugging the holes. Now, again, you're going against a running back in David Montgomery that he is one of the best I've seen in a long time as far as lateral movement. In other words, he's able to move side to side fast and gain additional yardage. And, of course, we know Montgomery is one tough son of a gun to try to bring down. The first half of Montgomery was fine. The second half, the Sooners did a little bit better job of containing him. And for whatever reason, even though I commend Iowa State for playing very hard and battling with the Sooners all the way to the end, you might remember in the third quarter when Iowa State had it 3rd and 1, I think around their own 34-yard line, David Montgomery wasn't in the game. And I don't understand why Iowa State would have one of their most impactful players watching that play from the sideline instead of in the game. And by the way, the Sooners came up with the stop and think it was a 1-yard loss, and Iowa State was forced to punt. So the decision-making by Matt Campbell sometimes was not the best. Again, if I got a guy that's 6 feet 6 inches tall and he's killing the other defense, I keep throwing it to him until the defense does something about it. So I don't think that Iowa State offense really utilized Hakeem Butler to the maximum in a game like this where you have a shot, where there's opportunities there, and then the last true Iowa State scoring opportunity early in the fourth quarter, they decided in that last series not to go to Butler as well when you're right there sniffing the goal line. So decision-making that was highly questionable at times by Iowa State. I didn't think either team tackled well at all, but especially for the Sooners. And if you're also wondering, too, by the way, and this I'm going to give OU a little bit of a pass on, why didn't we see the Sooners come up with a lot of quarterback sacks? Well, Zeb Nolan, and again, this was a game-time decision or probably a game-day decision, as Nolan was announced as a quarterback, a guy that had only started one time prior to today. Nolan gets rid of the ball fast. And Kyle Kent, by the way, didn't even suit out today. He was in street clothes. Nolan, he doesn't take a whole lot of time to release that ball. So that's one big reason why, in fact, the Sooners only had 1 sack in the first half, and that was by Kenneth Murray off of a blitz. So that's a big reason why. But Nolan was not always accurate. And by the way, how did I think Parnell Motley did? Mixed reviews. First half, I thought his coverage was terrific, especially on Iowa State's opening drive where they decided to go for it on 4th down just outside the OU 30. And Parnell, provided pretty good coverage on the outside, and he delivered throughout the first half. But the second half, not so much. And very, very lucky, by the way, in the third quarter when Iowa State had a wide open receiver on Motley's side, and he's lucky that Nolan didn't hit him stride for stride. He's lucky that the throw wasn't good. It was still a completion, but it wasn't for a touchdown. But it wasn't just Motley in that second half, and it wasn't, I don't just look at what I saw in the second half from him. I look at the Sooner team. And what's going to happen when you face T.C.U.? What's going to happen when you face Oklahoma State? What's going to happen when you face West Virginia at the end of the year? And you still are not getting the fundamentals down. Any thought that I had entering this game that the Sooner defense was completely all the way back, which I didn't, but I thought, okay, they at least look better than last year. They still have things to work on. They still have things to work on. And if this team wants to win another Big 12 championship, if they want to get back to the college football playoff, then you can't be having missed tackles and the stupid 15-yard penalties, okay? Just saying. Basic football. We'll see if Oklahoma's defense can get a little bit of its swagger back, because the second half, I will give them credit for making some big stops and forcing Iowa State to convert field goals rather than touchdowns, but still just not a terrific day for the OU defense. But the OU offense, big thumbs up too. Of course, next week, the Sooners back at home. If you're looking for the Army game on broadcast television, you won't find it. If you're looking for it on cable, you won't find it. That's because pay-per-view will have the game, and be ready to shell out a lot of money if you want to watch the game from your friendly confines. 6 o'clock kickoff, by the way, the first night game, by the way, for the Sooners. They'll take on the Black Knights of Army West Point. Hey, Sooners get the win. You know, like I said, the point spread, that's for Vegas. It's for those who put money on Oklahoma covering, and God help you if you did, because you didn't come out very well at all. The Sooners get the win. They atoned for last season, but that doesn't mean that the Sooners still don't have opportunities for improvement. 37-27, hey, you got the W. That's all I give a damn about right now. Boomer Sooner.